Welcome to Land Academy. I'm Jack Butala.
I'm Jill DeWit.
We show you how to buy real estate for half of what it's worth.
And sell it on the internet really fast.
We are Jack and Jill,
and this is the Jack and Jill Show too.
With over 15,000 completed transactions, we're the experts at acquiring property.
Of all kinds, not just land.
For half price and flipping them for way more.
All right, let's get this show started.
Jack Butala with Jill DeWit.
Hi there.
Welcome to our show today. In this episode, Jill and I talk about house poor defined. Before we get into it, let's take a question posted by one of our members on the landinvestors.com online community. It's free.
Okay. Allan asks, hi, I purchased a parcel of land and now have a potential buyer who is asking if mineral rights are included. Has anyone had this question come up? And if so, how would I even go about answering what seems to be a very complex area of law? I apologize. This is Marianne, by the way. Does anyone make this part of their due diligence before buying a property? And if so, how are you checking it? Any help is much appreciated. And I want to just point out, Marianne is actually looks like brand new to land investors and just kind of learning about this, but it's a really good question.
Yeah. Do you want me to answer, or do you want?
Yeah, go right ahead.
You're 100% correct in saying it's extremely complicated. Here's what happens. There's a chain of title on every single piece of property, right back to when it was homesteaded. So let's say it changed hands 10 times. John Smith gave it to his daughter, Sally Smith. Sally Smith sold it to an unrelated third party called John Adams, and so on and so on and so on. Well, during one of those changes, one of those transfers, somebody put right on the document, on the deed of the transfer document, that they're going to retain the mineral rights. They're going to transfer the surface rights, but they're going to keep the mineral rights. Is it complicated and difficult and nearly impossible to find out who actually owns mineral rights on? Yes, it is. Unless you have to go through all those documents, and most of which, think about how many county buildings have burned down before the internet. So the chances are of really digging into it and finding out who owns mineral rights isn't nearly impossible at our level. If there's a gold mine on a piece of property somewhere in Nevada and there's billions of dollars in potential revenue involved, then you can start to hire people and figure that out. But for purposes of these asset types that we're involved in, it's nearly impossible. So what do you do? Well, what Jill and I do, and for a lot of years what we just said is, we are not we don't even look into it, and we just say, no, we're not. We are not transferring the mineral rights. Mm-hmm. Or we say, I don't know. Mm-hmm. We're not going to put it in our document.
Right.
When we convey the property to you, we're going to convey the property as if we don't know, and that you get the mineral rights with it. We're not going to retain the mineral rights.
Right.
9 times out of 10. Well, 9.9 times out of 10. So the potential buyer that's asking that doesn't know this. And quite frankly, it's really important for you to understand the basic stuff. But if you start to go down this path, this philosophical mineral rights path with the buyer, you're going to scare him away.
Yeah.
So just say, to your knowledge, I believe that we are transferring the mineral rights to you, but I don't know. You're going to have to check. But I think it does come with mineral rights, and we're going to assume that. So we're going to convey a document like we believe that you're going to get the mineral rights with it.
Right. I would just say too, look at it like the property. The property is the asset, not that's what I'm conveying to you. That's really it is. You're buying it for the property, not for that.
That's a great twist.
And if any of them did convey and everything, that's a bonus. And I'm not going to mark it up or mark whatever because of that too. I'm really looking at just the property, and I'm sure that there have been transactions that there are people that have got mineral rights and they found out later on. It was a nice bonus. Good for them. I could care less. Right. I was happy with the transaction anyway.
Well done.
Thank you.
That's why there's 2 of us, not 1.
Silly.
If it was just me doing real estate deals, it would all be dry and drab, and there'd just be math. And I would say,
no, you're no fun.
You don't want to buy it, Mr. Mineral Rights? Then don't buy it.
Oh my gosh, party animal here. Oh my God, you wear me out all the time. Like you're boring. Oh no, you are far from boring.
Hey, if you have a question, you want to be on the show, reach out to either one of us on landinvestors.com. Today's topic, which is a continuation from yesterday, I guess, house poor defined. This is the meat of the show. Continue, Jill.
So yesterday we talked about, spending millions, spending thousands of dollars a month to have $1 million or more home. And we were starting to talk about, okay, what are you giving up? I mean, is it, if you're bringing in $100 million a month, knock yourself out. And then you could even then pay cash for it. Let's be smart here. I mean, that's the whole thing. So it kind of grew into, all right, what are you giving up? Because some people, like I was sharing my experience when I was in my 20s. I was kind of like, well, the next thing you do, well, you're married now and you have a kid now, and next thing you should do is buy a house and you take out a mortgage. Because that's what grown-ups do. Wrong. That's exactly what you shouldn't be doing.
Wrong.
So I have a couple notes I was going to say here, and then I want to talk more with you about this, Jack. So my definition of house poor is sitting in your fancy house, looking at your car that you can't afford to drive or go anywhere. Or if you really want to get outside the box or you really want to do something fun, you go sit in your nice car that you can't afford to drive, but you get to sit and look at your fancy house that you have, because that's as far as you go.
Because you can't afford to go out to dinner.
Because you can't, because you're house poor. That's it. And I was going to give a couple things about my background, which
Let me give the numbers before you do that.
Do it.
Let's say you make $60,000 a year and your paycheck's around $5,000. And your mortgage is $4,000 after taxes and the whole thing. So now you have a $4,000 mortgage for $700,000 house ish. You make $65,000 a year, and you have this beautiful house and a car, like Jill just described. Car payment of $200, $300, $400, $500, and you have absolutely no money left over to even eat ramen noodles, which is exactly, by the way, how a loan officer wants it. They want you.
You are in debt to them,
to be
man.
locked up, done.
That's true.
So that's what house poor is. You have a beautiful house and a really good job, and you are done.
You're stuck.
You can't leave the house.
Trapped. You're trapped in your job too. You can't even afford to leave your job and make a big change. You're kind of stuck there.
That's right.
Heaven forbid you get laid off. You're in fear of that.
And because the house is so over leveraged, you can't sell it, even if you do get a letter from us, because it's so over leveraged. There's too much debt on it. Mm-hmm. Don't get house poor. Jill's going to get us out of it right now. Go ahead, Jill.
Well, I thought it was really interesting because I was taking a moment and thinking about my background, and you know this, Jack, but most people don't know this. My parents bought their first home when I graduated high school. How smart were they?
Wow,
and
really?
I didn't realize. Yes, I'm serious. They rented 4 years. They rented a home in Orange County, California. And all through I graduated high school. Why? Because it was $600 a month. It made sense just to sit tight, and it was a okay home in a nice neighborhood. Everybody was fine, and that made sense. So what did this free us up to do? Well, number one, we traveled a lot. See, what I remember is having a really, really good, fun life because we could afford to do this stuff. So this is one of the things where I said, what are you giving up? My family, personally growing up, we wanted to travel and do things and have nice stuff. And, like we had when the first computers, the newest, latest computers came out, we got them. That was one of the things my dad wanted to do. And I appreciate that. But we rented and they saved money until they could buy a house. So now across the street, my friend Donna Tipton, by the way, they had a beautiful home. I was always very jealous because this beautiful yellow 2-story home with a pool, avocado tree in the front yard. We go get avocados off of. I really remember this in great detail. But they couldn't go anywhere. They didn't. That was it. They were kind of stuck. My family was off taking. We were in Hawaii. We'd go to Mexico. We took some fun trips, and because we could. So that's why I want to say, A, don't be house poor. It's really not a good plan. And B, you're giving up a lot, And C, save it up and buy something. What do you want to add?
I have a lot to say about this because I believe owning a house the wrong way. Owning the house can be one of the most profitable things that you've ever done. And it can be the biggest disaster also. And it all has to do with how much money you borrow. Number one, you never want to overpay for a house. Here's how you overpay for a house. You get a real estate agent, maybe it's your friend or your friend's friend, and they start looking for a house and they dig through the MLS, the multiple listing service, and you get in the back of their car And you start driving around and looking at houses, and you find one you like, because really what you like is the wallpaper and the stuff that's in the kitchen, right? Or the faucet in the master bath, that or some kind of,
Or the curb appeal.
or just fulfilling some kind of empty dream that you have.
Right.
So that's exactly what you do not want to do at any point in your life, at any point, or you're going to start making a bad decision. Even where Jill and I are financially, we don't do stuff like that. We absolutely have to make sure that the deal is right first. Then we fall in love with it, maybe. So don't fall into that trap. You never want to buy a property where there's a real estate agent involved. It's always wrong. You want to get there first. You want to send a bunch of letters out and be real calculated about it. And if you're in a relationship with somebody who doesn't necessarily feel it this way, go do it anyway and serve it up to him the same way. Not
Are you really?
not pull the trigger on the deal.
Okay, wait.
Serve it up to him the same way a real estate agent would do. What a real estate agent would do is say, you know what? I've got these 5 houses. I really think we should go look at them.
Okay.
So do that. If you're the data
Scared me
person,
there for a second.
Go find those 3 to 5 houses and say, hey, spouse, I got these 5 houses that I found in this obscure way from these weirdos called Land Academy on the internet. And it turns out they're right. I sent a bunch of letters out. I spent $300, $400, $500 doing it. And now I've got 3 properties that are probably worth half or maybe 60% of what we could get them elsewhere.
Right.
So let's go take a look at them together. It's the same thing. The real estate agent is going to do the same thing, but you're going to save half.
Right.
So don't fall into these traps, this house poor thing. Now, I have to talk about keeping up with the Joneses, because really this is what I think goes on.
I agree.
And I bet you have a lot to say about this, too, because it turns my stomach.
I know. It does.
I'm actually writing a book right now. I'm writing a couple, but this is the one that's going to get released first. It's advice for young men. You know, stuff that I wish my dad would have. Maybe that's what I'll even call it. Stuff that I wish my dad would have told me.
Good title. I like that.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Maybe we could release it with that.
I like that.
You never want to keep up with the Joneses. I don't care who you are. You know, if you have to have a Porsche because your buddy got one, I don't care how they got it. There's something wrong. Honestly. There's way more important things in life. And if you absolutely then have to have a Porsche, then buy an old one. Or rent one for a weekend. And, you know, go burn the back tires off of the thing and turn it back in. Because you don't want to do this. This kind of stuff wrecks your life. This keeping up with the Joneses business. Here's another one. We're going to lose half of our listeners. Ready, Jeff?
Ready.
Half of the 10 people that listen to this show. If you're in a relationship with somebody who's got to keep up with the Joneses about everything and they're constantly pushing you to buy a bigger house or go on to the next project or get a bigger SUV, you really need to look at yourself in the mirrors today and say if this is the right thing for you. Because you don't want that. Who wants to live like that?
Mm-hmm.
Jill and I figured it out. It was a little bit later in life for us, but we did figure it out together.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff she's great at, and there's stuff that I'm pretty good at. So that's the kind of situation that you want to put yourself in. And I don't believe that you actually just wake up and find yourself in that situation. I think you have to make it happen for yourself.
Right.
And the people you care about.
I remember I worked with this guy. His name was Greg. And he would always say, I can't go. Or, hey, we're going out Friday night. Come with us. Nope, I can't. I already spent. He had an allocated budget of what his entertainment funds would be. And I don't think it was a lot. It might have been $20 a week or something. Enough for a couple beers. And when it was spent, it was spent. And why? Because he was saving up for a car. He wanted the latest and greatest Jetta. I'll never forget this. And I thought, this guy's crazy. I'm like, what a loner, too. I'm like, he has no life, kind of thing. Nope, Greg was adamant about it. You know what? And I worked with that guy. And then, I don't know, a year, maybe 18 months went by. Greg rolled in a gorgeous red, brand new Jetta that he paid cash for. And I was like, wow, I didn't get it at the time. And then later on, I'm like, he was so smart. I really appreciate the way he did that. And why is that so hard for us to understand, Jack?
I don't know. Oh, it's not hard for me to understand.
Yeah.
But why do people do it? I don't know.
Everybody would say, "Oh, I can go get the Jetta right now. Tomorrow, I'll pay $1,000 down. I'll pay $250 a month, whatever it is, and then I can have it too." Oh yeah, then you're paying forever. By the way, you're never going to get ahead.
I don't think anybody's shown them, a working example. When you're young, you see somebody pulling up in a new car, and that's what you see. You don't see the 2 years that it's taken to save for it, or the decisions that they made in their early to mid 20s about careers and college and the whole thing. There's a right way and a wrong way to do all of this, and you can have all of what you want. In fact, that's what Jill's book's about. It's about, you can have it all. How to have it all. It's for women. You can have it all, but it takes some planning and some patience, and, you have to give up certain stuff.
And you got to define what you really want.
Yeah. Because the chances are, I'll tell you right now, and the whole theme of my thing is, the stuff that you're really giving up, you don't care about that anyway, or you shouldn't care about it. Do you really need a new Porsche? I really don't think you do.
I know. Am I going to get to work that much faster? Or is it going to be that much better?
Or whoever's really you're trying to impress, and who is impressed by that, you don't want to be hanging out with that person anyway.
Good point.
Especially if it's somebody of the opposite sex, because that's only the beginning of the problems for you.
Oh, that's so true.
I shouldn't say opposite sex. I should say if you're trying to attract somebody for interpersonal relationship reasons, whether they're male or female or whatever works for you, that person that's attracted to that is not, how's that split for political correct? Most politically correct thing I've ever said.
That is hilarious.
And it's really only because we're on the podcast.
This is absolutely hilarious. So I just to put it another way, this is how I describe it. If you're dating that person that only wants to be with you because of your car, that's not who you should be dating.
Oh, much better.
And by the way, if you have that kind of a car, the last thing you want to do is bring it out on date 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Save it for date 10. You need to Uber around for the first 9 dates, or borrow your friend's junky car, or drive your other car, because they need to get to know you, not your car. Because, that's whether you're male or female.
I agree with that completely.
You don't want that person.
I totally agree.
Thank you. I remember, it's funny.
We could take this to the end right now. I mean, I could talk about this for hours.
My brother got that speech from his friends, and I remember listening to it because he had this cool Land Rover, and they're like, you cannot show up in a Land Rover. And she's like, oh, I want to be cool. They're like, no. And his friends are right.
Attracting a gold digger.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. .com.
I have so much to say. I can't.
Attractingagolddigger.com. I'm like, wow. I wonder if that site's available. It's hilarious. Woo.
So here's another argument, an anti-house poor argument I've heard. I heard it recently. If I didn't buy that house, if I didn't actually buy that house, I wouldn't have been able to sell it 2 years later for $180,000 more, or in California's case, $500,000 more. See what, Jack, you're wrong.
Right.
I overspent as much as I could and bought as much house as I could because I knew I was going to flip it for more. And you know what? It's a valid argument. Here's the concept. Here's my answer. And this is a part of the takeaway from House Poor Defined, this show. Please understand, listener, the concept of equitable title. Equitable title means this. You have the right to make a decision, an acquisition decision or a sale decision about a piece of real estate. It's as good as owning it, but without all of the down payment and the loans and the whole thing. Here's an example. And this is a real example from a very close friend of ours who's a college professor that Jill and I have known for years and will know forever. He couldn't afford to buy a house in a neighborhood that he wanted to buy. So what he did is he went and rented a house in the neighborhood that he wanted for the price that he wanted. And he negotiated a rental rate because he found a house where the owner owned it free and clear. So they could negotiate any rent they wanted. And he said, I'm going to do 2 things, but I want an option to purchase. I'm going to clean the house up. I'm going to completely renovate the house on my own dime. I'm going to pay for it. And I'm going to do the labor myself. But I want an option to purchase for X. For the next, and it's a fixed price, and I want it to be for the next 36 months, 3 years. So we rented the house, cleaned it all up, and the economy got much better. And at the end of the 36-month period, after they've been paying rent for 3 years, the house was worth about $300,000 more than the actual option to purchase. So he didn't have to go through any of the crap. And guess what he did? He found a buyer by himself. For the price, the retail price, exercised the option. He bought the house, exercised the option, and never put any money into the deal, and collected a $300,000 check when he was done. That's equitable title. So if you want to keep up with the Joneses, do it smart.
Bingo.
And
I love it.
And please understand equitable title. It's probably what I should have named the show.
No, I like house poor. No, I'm serious, because everybody understands that. You say equitable title, like, whoop, and we're out.
Yep.
But no, house poor, that's it. Don't be house poor. Be house smart. Rent. Save your money.
Save your money.
Do it right. Like that.
I talk about it in my book, the stuff that you should be, here's what you should spend money on. And maybe not freely, be smart about it, but
Jewelry.
sleep well.
Sorry.
Education is the top of the list. That's why we all make money for children's education.
True.
So that's number one. Safety stuff. If you have a daughter or a spouse or whatever, you want to make sure everybody's safe. That's about it. Everything else, good, reasonably good food. But
Good
turns
talk.
out the cheapest stuff on the planet is vegetables.
Nothing else matters.
Fresh vegetables are like 3 cents an ounce.
Love it.
So I can go off and go nuts about it, but you don't need to spend a lot of money on anything
No.
to be happy.
Exactly.
If you do need to do that, then you need to spend some money on psychiatry.
There you go. Love it.
Join us in another episode where we discuss the top 3 ways to wreck your real estate career. Wow, these are all positive topics, Joe.
Right.
Top 3 ways to wreck your real estate career and your life. That's awesome. That was one of my
It's
topics.
going to be hilarious, I know. And in our next episode, we answer Marcus's question about needing help pricing offers.
Excellent.
I know that there's a lot of people are going to tune in for that one.
You are not alone in your real estate ambition. That was a go off tangent show.
We need to get that out.
I think so too.
That's
I'm glad
really it.
Because this is not just about real estate. Because if you're interested in buying and selling real estate to make a bunch of money, you're going to come across these things.
Right.
There's several people who have joined our group because they have too much money, and it cracks me up every time I get the email.
That's funny. And several have joined because they have too little money because they are house poor.
We have too much money, and we don't want to learn how to do a mailer and all that. I just want to be in your group so I can be exposed to people who I can partnership deals with. I'm like, come on in, man.
Mm-hmm.
The door is wide open.
Exactly.
Too much money. It's
I
cracking.
love it. Yep. Love it. Hey, and if you love it and you like our show, please subscribe and rate us on iTunes or wherever you are listening.
Information and inspiration to buy undervalued property.
We are Jack and Jill, and this was the Cash Flow from Land Show.
We are the experts at acquiring property
Of all kinds, not just land,
for half price just so we can flip it for way more.
and really fast. Thanks for listening. You are not alone in your real estate ambition.